Hey folks! So in order to keep the data about artificial intelligence on board the USS Discovery from being integrated with Section 31's artificial intelligence program called Control, and making Control an artificial superintelligence that would wipe out all sentient life in the galaxy, the Discovery had to go 930 years into the future. They neutralized Leland, the guy whose body was effectively assimilated by Control, and were able to escape from him and his fleet of drones. But presumably Control was still saved on Section 31's computers back at its headquarters or somewhere. This makes me wonder whether going 930 years into the future would make that much of a difference in the long run, because it's possible that Control would still be around in that time. But I guess that because everything kind of fell apart at some point, Control may have ceased to exist. So this episode begins with the one guy left in this part of the galaxy who represents the Federation. He's got a holographic bird alarm clock and a bed made presumably out of nanobots that dissolve into the floor whenever he's done using it. Also, these nanobots build him a floating desk and chair. Every day he gets up and he searches for signals of some kind from somewhere. Another new character, Book, is running from a poacher from whom Book stole an animal Book is trying to conserve. When Michael's wormhole opens up, she comes flying out and ends up hitting Book's ship. Michael's suit is damaged and both she and Book crash on a nearby planet, presumably Terrelysium. She lands next to a crater and tries to contact Discovery but gets no response. Her suit says that there are signs of life on the planet, so Michael's plan to save the galaxy from Control apparently worked. It also tells her that the wormhole is closing, so she sends the suit back to whatever time it needs to go back to create the signal near Terrelysium that lets Spock know that she got to the future okay. When Michael gets to Book, he tries to fight her because he assumes that she is also a poacher. Also, he scolds her for creating an artificial wormhole, which is apparently bad, especially since the Gorn destroyed 2 light years of subspace. Apparently, the planet they're on is called Hema, and it's unclear whether it used to be Terrelysium or not. They go back to Book's ship, and he says that his dilithium recrystallizer broke when Michael crashed into him. So they have to go to town to buy some dilithium, which Book doesn't want to do because he's got poachers looking for him. Also, he has a big foofy kitty. Michael offers to trade her old equipment as antiques in exchange for dilithium and for use of a subspace transmitter to contact Discovery. This is good because Book is space broke, which I guess means he's out of space bucks. Book cloaks his ship and they head to town. On the way, Book explains that he's a courier, and that folks who walk around with Starfleet badges are now considered kooks who are obsessed with the Federation, which is now gone. He also explains that it collapsed about a century ago, not long after the Burn, which was an event during which most of the galaxy's dilithium blew up for some reason. Obviously, there's still some dilithium left, but apparently not enough to maintain Starfleet. Book mentions some other ways to get around, like quantum slipstream and tachyon solar sails, but apparently those aren't viable enough to maintain Starfleet either. The way dilithium works is that it helps control the matter-antimatter reactions that power a starship. Without it, you can't power a ship with antimatter. They get to Requiem, the town where they intend to buy dilithium, and they try to get into this floating thing called the Mercantile. Apparently it's run by Andorians and Orions. It's interesting that the Federation couldn't survive, but the Orion Syndicate apparently did, and they're still running their sketchy businesses. The Andorians didn't want to let Michael in because she has no identification, but then one of their bosses tells them through a drone to let them pass. Book explains that people in the Mercantile negotiate for things, and the Orions hire couriers like Book to deliver them. Also, apparently they have portable transporters now. Michael gets trapped in some kind of stasis field, and Book takes her stuff and leaves. An Andorian and Orion ask her whom she's working with, and she won't tell them, nor could she adequately explain. So they gas her with drugs to make her talk. It mostly just makes her babble, and she recommends that they not give any to Tilly. Book tries to negotiate for some dilithium, but is not successful. Also, Cosmo, the poacher he was running from, finds him and captures him. Michael tries to explain how she got where she is, but the Orion and Andorian don't seem to understand. They ask whom she hit when she came out of the wormhole, and she tells them about Book. Book is being interrogated by Cosmo, who threatens to feed his cat to the starving and says that she could feed a whole planet. Book says that she's a queen, so apparently there's a lot more to this cat than is immediately apparent. Cosmo threatens to shoot Michael, then Book and Michael beat everyone up, take their weapons, and run away. Michael finds a bunch of dilithium and they transport away from Requiem. They are followed by Andorians and a bunch of other aliens, so Book grabs Michael and jumps off a cliff to get away from their pursuers, and they rematerialize underwater where they can't be tracked. Michael's arm is injured because she was shot, so Book causes a plant to grow out of the ground with what seems like a magical incantation. I suspect this means that he is not, or not completely, human. He applies the plant to Michael's arm because that apparently helps with injuries. Turns out Book had a communication device with him the whole time, and he decides just now to let Michael use it. She tries to contact the Discovery again, but still gets no answer. Book tells Michael that all time travel technology was destroyed after the Temporal Wars. I guess the Temporal Cold War that involved the Suliban messing with Captain Archer's Enterprise was one of those temporal wars, and I also guess that means we're not going to see the Enterprise J. They get back to Book's ship, but the Andorians and other aliens that have been chasing them show up again. The Orion guy kills Cosmo for letting Book steal his cargo. They let one of the animals he's been smuggling out of its cage. Book tells Michael to close her eyes because it's a big worm that can hypnotize people. It eats a couple of the guys who were chasing Book and Michael, and the rest of them beam away. Then it eats Michael, but Book tells it to regurgitate her. Turns out Book is a conservationist who has been saving these trance worms because they're endangered. He comes from a family of poachers, but every now and then someone like him who can talk to trance worms and make plants instantaneously grow out of the ground shows up in the gene pool. Book takes Michael and the trance worms to a preservation planet and lets her know about an old Federation relay station. That's where the dude who scans for signals every day is. His name is Aditya Sahil, and he seems shocked that he has actually found someone from Starfleet. He tries to scan for Discovery's warp signature, but can't find it in the 600 light-year radius that he was able to scan. He can't scan any further because long-range sensors don't work anymore. Sahil's been looking for other Starfleet members for 40 years, and this is the first time one has shown up. So he takes out his Federation flag and asks Michael to hang it because only a commissioned officer is allowed to do so. Generally, I liked this episode, but it was frustrating that it's only part 1. I wanted to see the rest of the crew of Discovery. I like Sahil, he's pretty cool. Book seems pretty cool. There's a lot of world building that needs to be done yet, though. What happened to Earth? How are things going there? How do Burnham and Sahil plan to rebuild the Federation, if that is indeed their plan, if there is hardly any Federation infrastructure left? The Federation is pretty much a failed state. I guess I was hoping for more from this episode, but at the same time, I feel like I have a lot to look forward to, so that's a good thing.